Welcome to the latest volume of NASCAR Video Magazine. I'm your host, Benny Parsons, and on this and every edition, we take you behind the scenes and to the front row of action in a way not available anywhere else. We bring the NASCAR lifestyle roaring right into your living room. Now here's what we have in store. In a very special and very different kind of interview, Felix Sabates, owner of Kyle Petty's Mellow Yellow Pontiac, shares the secrets of his incredible success. We have a special feature on the racer's eyes in the sky, the spotters. In our tech report, crew chief Jeff Hammond gives us a tour of the pit box and how it's set up for that 18-second pit stop ballet. Our driver profile is Ricky Rudd of the Tide Chevrolet. He shares personal moments from the career that has led him to own his own team. But first, here's our cover story, an up-close look at what it's like to be a NASCAR rookie. I was a rookie in 1970. I've been racing Saturday nights and Sunday afternoons, 100-mile races, and reading about myself in the trade publications. Now, all of a sudden, I'm reading about myself in the dailies all over the South and racing 500 miles on Sunday afternoon. What a change. Now, here's what it feels like to be a rookie in the fast lane of the most competitive form of motorsports in the world.
I guess it feels like getting shot at the OK Corral. When you go out for the first time and you're racing with a bunch of people that you don't know anything about, they don't know anything about you, and you're out there trying to figure out the racetrack and figure out the race car, I mean, you just want to sit there and go, ah! I mean, it's real frustrating, and it keeps you real busy.
You don't feel like you fit in, first of all. You know, you just feel like you're kind of in awe when you first get here of what they're doing and just being a part of it. And then if you, the first time you do good and you outrun Bill Elliott, Dale Earnhardt, and some of those guys, you're like, yes, I can do this. And those are real big, important steps for any rookie.
I remember my first race, and I'll tell you what, it was the most incredible feeling. I can remember sitting back, you know, on the starting grid there on the pit road, and I was sitting there thinking, I said, man, there's Richard Petty. I looked up there, and my dad came over the window, and I looked over him, and I was at this little 82 Ford Thunderbird. I looked out the window, and he goes, are you excited? I said, I'm pumped, Dad. I'm ready to go, you know. And it was just one of those exciting moments that you finally made an event, you know, in Winston Cup. And all of a sudden, here goes a couple, 3 or 4 cats by me. And I said, how will I ever get to be that fast? But, you know, again, you become more proficient with the apprenticeship program.
I was in awe of the whole atmosphere, the crowds, and how fierce the racing was, how competitive it was. And I was really taken by that. I was trying to learn as much as I can, and I can't say how a whole lot of fun that race, but I knew by watching and being part of it that I wanted to do it real bad. And I said, man, I want to get as good as these other guys, and I want to be able to do that.
First race was at Charlotte Motor Speedway in 1985. It was the World 600, and Bill Elliott was running for $1 million. And I was living with Richard Petty, so I had to make sure I stayed out of there, you know, Elliott's way for the $1 million, Richard's way because I was living with him. I used to live with Kyle, so I had to give him plenty of room, and my brother Darrell was out there racing too, so plus I had no idea what I was doing because I'd never run anything more than 100 lapper, and here I was ready for 600 miles.
I guess the first race I run was in Columbia, South Carolina, and you know, I'd never been on the racetrack. I mean, I wasn't like most of these boys who've been running Saturday nights and all that stuff. I'd never raced in it. So it was quite an experience, to tell you the truth. You know, we finished the race, didn't hit nobody. Well, anyhow, we didn't get knocked out. I won't say I didn't hit nobody. But, you know, after that, I said, this is what I want to do.
I was, you know, of course, very intimidated by the competition. You know, these guys I've watched on TV, you know, gone to races and watched. You know, you're talking about guys that are in the ultimate of motorsports, the top in motorsports, NASCAR Winston Cup racing. And when you're out there for the first time against them, sure, you're intimidated. You know, you feel that, you know, do I belong here? You know, am I capable of racing with these guys? But then there's the competitive side of you inside that wants to go out there and beat them. First time. It doesn't matter what you're in, what kind of equipment you're in. You want to beat them. You want to beat somebody. That's the difference between a real racer and someone that's just doing it for the fun of it. The competitive drive inside. Even though you're a rookie, you go talk to Bobby Labonte or Jeff Gordon or Kenny Wallace. They want to win races. They don't just want to win Rookie of the Year. They want to win races.
Well,
Well, you know, I would say that there's times when you feel like you've got control of the car and everything's going well for you on the racetrack. You know, I mean, there's times that things are going on off the racetrack and on the racetrack. We'll talk about on the racetrack. You know, when it's just your day. I mean, you can't do any wrong. The car's handling great. You come in, your pit crew does a great pit stop. You get back out there. You're running with the front group, and you end up running up front at the end of the race. You know, that's when you don't feel like a rookie. It's happened to us, you know, 4 or 5 times this year when we finished in the top 5. Daytona is probably the best example. Never expected to be in that position to begin with, and it was just incredible, you know, to be out there in the Daytona 500, my first ever Daytona 500, running, you know, on Dale Earnhardt's bumper. I mean, there isn't a guy out there that I'd rather be behind, you know, learning from than Dale Earnhardt. And I mean, you know, 10 laps ago, here I am running second to Dale Earnhardt. I didn't want to finish second. I wanted to win the race, but there were so many thoughts going through my mind. I mean, looking up at the crowd, you know, and it's like all of a sudden here this race just stopped. You know, we're doing 190 miles an hour, but to me it's like it stopped, and here I am like, man, this is incredible. My first Daytona 500, and I'm running second to Dale Earnhardt. You know, the crowd's going wild. I mean, what's going to happen here? Am I going to win this thing? Am I going to, you know, what's going to happen? I really didn't know. I mean, we finished 5th, and I was just still felt ecstatic, felt like I won the race.
The first year, you know, you're going out there saying that you're really going to run good, and you want to, you know, you want to beat everybody because that's the rookie coming out in you. But really, in all rights, what you need to do is learn everything the first year, get inside, learn how to be nice to everybody. You know, by about the second year, you should be ready to run with them.
You know, you go out there and you try to pass cars, but at the same time, you make sure that, well, you're cautious with it, you know, because you are a rookie. You do have a yellow stripe, so you want to make sure that you don't cause a problem with somebody else. I mean, you never want to do that anyway, whether you're a rookie or not. But at the same time, when you're a rookie, you go out there, you know, the way I approach it is you just take it one step at a time, one race at a time, one day at a time. You learn as much as you can each day, you know, make mental notes of it and go the next day or next race.
They've got the best, probably the best group of rookies they've ever had come through this year. And after a race or two, then you say, hey, these cats look like veterans.
The 1993 crop of rookies led by Jeff Gordon may have been good, but like all rookies, they share key experience in trying to make it in NASCAR Winston Cup racing, the intense psychological battle that takes place on the racetrack. Take it from me, the veteran drivers of NASCAR will exploit every edge and advantage they can. And if that makes life a little miserable for a rookie, so be it. The veterans are going to protect their turf, and they're going to find out what that rookie's got, and if he's got what it takes.
There's a lot of times when a guy, I mean, he'll give you a little bump going down the straightaway, and just to test you out. You know, I think they're just testing you, and you know, I think they're testing because they want to find out, hey, can I race with this guy every weekend? I mean, I want to know what to expect with this guy. And I mean, they do a lot of things. They'll take air right off your spoiler, you know, try to get you loose without actually hitting you, you know, and they'll just run you for everything you've got. I mean, if you're going to pass them, you're going to have to take every inch of that racetrack, or at least 4 or 5 laps. If you're going to pass them, you're going to have to take 5 laps to get by them. And you know, it's little things like that, trying to intimidate you with, you know, getting up close in your mirror, running you real close, run you up close to the wall.
It's a battle of wits and a battle of aggressiveness, and intimidation is the name of the game. And lots of times you have to go out there and do that to everyone, and it's just manipulation. I think most of the time he's able to come up behind you and you know, be in your mirror, then not be in your mirror, and then of course rub you a little bit, and you know, manipulate the air a little bit on you. There's a lot of things, a lot of variables that there's at their disposal that they can do to make you uncomfortable, and that's very intimidating.
They don't test you, they just do what they're doing, and it's a test for us, but they're not trying to do anything any different than they do with anybody else. But you know, at the same time, we're going to school, or being a rookie, we're going to school, and you know, just a lot of times I've been out there and I said, you know, well, you know, I'm gonna learn a lot right here if I could just stay right here and watch this guy in front of me, and so I'm in front of the veteran. I'm in front of a veteran, but I'm going to learn a lot from him just being in front of him.
You want to earn people's respect. You want to get to where they feel comfortable running with you, because they know that when you go in this corner, you're going to run this line lap after lap, and if you don't, there's going to be a reason behind it. You're not going to do something real crazy. And that's very important to these guys because they all want to get to a certain comfort level with each other. They know that when they go out there, they can go down that corner, door handle to door handle, and this guy is going to hold it down to the best of his ability, not slide up into him, not cut across his nose. There's just so many things that respect is the one thing we're after, and that's what Kenny is more important to him, I think, than anything else right at this point in the game, is to earn their respect to where they know that they can practice with him, they can race with him, and he's not going to do anything to jeopardize their car or their day's racing.
I think the way you really get respect from the veterans is to be able to race with them. If you have a veteran behind you and you're sitting there and you're running and he can't pass you, first of all, you're in his way, but then all of a sudden the guy gets to run along with you and says, you know, I can't pass this guy. And you don't crash all day long, you don't do nothing stupid, you don't cut him off. You know, it don't take one race, it takes like all year long to get the respect, because what you can do is you can race that guy and he'll think you did a pretty good job, but you get in a wreck with another driver and one driver say, oh, he's a rookie, and then the other guy that you ran good with, he'll agree with him because they're veterans. So, you know, it's kind of like the teachers ganging up on the students in school. But, you know, it's a deal where if you run with the veterans long enough, you know, and you're good to them and you can race with them, they can pass you without you cutting them off or sticking them in the wall. That's how you get respect.
Let's say I'm in a lead draft or something at Daytona, or maybe I'm not in the lead draft. I'm running along, and you know, I'm wanting somebody. Okay, I'm waving along. Come on, help me out here. And they come up to me, and go, pull out, and go right on by. You know, and you're like, well, they must saw that yellow tape on the rear bumper, and you know, everybody, especially the rookies, we want to earn our respect with those drivers. And the only way to do that is to get out there and run wheel to wheel with them at 180, 190 miles an hour. And it's kind of a tough way to do it sometimes. But if you're going to run with the big boys, you know, you got to be able to do that.
A rookie has to go through a lot to stake out his turf on the track. But he doesn't get there on his own by any stretch of the imagination. His car owner, crew chief, and occasionally even fellow drivers all play a critical role in his hands-on, on-the-track education. And hey, it's the school of hard knocks out there, from bruised bones to bruised egos.
Well, I think the best thing about having a rookie driver is their enthusiasm. You know, everything is peachy, everything is lovely. It doesn't work that way. The worst thing about having a rookie driver is after the race, they come down. You know, they expect to go and win every race, and realistically, the chances are not very good. And after the race is over, sometimes they get down on themselves, and it's tough to get them back up again. But hey, that's part of it. And I think you know the risk when you have a rookie. You gotta have a strong hand in the left hand and a soft hand in the right hand. You gotta be able to go like this and then like this.
He's a rookie. He don't really know what he's looking for or what he's got to have to be a success at. So it takes a long learning process of ups and downs, and 99% of the time he'll go through a lot of wrecking areas where he's in some pretty bad wrecks and that type of stuff, because he'll make a lot of mistakes. But your good rookies will figure it out pretty fast. They know what happens when they get in a tight place, what's going to, how they're going to have to get out of it, and so on and so forth. That's the ones that'll make good race cars. The ones that just keep doing it over and over and over and don't never learn nothing. It's pretty tough for them to make it in this sport.
I guess in some ways I feel like I'm an artist. You know, I'm a sculptor. I'm trying to make something, and not something out of nothing, but we've got a real rough statue or a picture here developing. And as we work and we develop ideas and we kind of smooth off the rough edges, we hopefully will have a piece of artwork, you might say, that everybody wants. We want to have somebody, when we're all said and done with Kenny Wallace, we want to have somebody they call him up saying, hey, will you come drive my race car? And then at the same time, we want him to say, no, I like where I'm at because these guys are doing me a good job. But that's where the level of respect and the fact that, you want to have somebody that everybody else wants.
See, the reason I'm an expert on this subject is because I wasn't a very good rookie. I assumed that I was much smarter than all the older drivers were, and that the way they did things was not the way that I was going to do things. That I was going to show those guys that they were too old to be racing with a young buck like me. And so I really made a lot of mistakes. And the beautiful thing about making mistakes when you're a rookie is you got an old, wiry, half gray-headed veteran that'll come over and straighten you out right quick.
For many drivers, the rookie season is a defining moment of their careers. And sometimes winning Rookie of the Year becomes a legacy of unfulfilled expectations. But for others, the rookie title is like an announcement to the rest of the competitors that I've arrived and I'm staying. Cale Yarborough showed his toughness and tenacity right from the start and went on to notch 83 career victories. Darrell Walter was brash, bold, and successful, and that's been his calling card ever since. Dale Earnhardt arrived going full tilt, taking no prisoners. He hasn't softened or lifted since. In 1993, Bobby Labonte and Kenny Wallace both made their presence felt, but for the long haul, the jury is still out. But the Rookie of the Year season of Jeff Gordon in the DuPont Chevrolet has left people talking about the arrival of another possible legend, another great one.
Well, if he's one, say like Jeff Gordon, you know right away with his determination and his willpower to stick his nose in there and wrestle them guys the way he does, and he's going to be a tremendous success in this sport. How he handles the success means a lot. If he don't let it get to his head and he keeps the drive in that he's got right now, he's going to be one of the top guys in this sport for a long, long time.
Not very often does a rookie get up there and race with the veterans. Most of the time he follows. Most of the time he's in an observing position. Most of the time he does that because either his car isn't good enough or he lacks the ability to be able to do that, and he's trying to learn how to do that. Jeff's the exception. He gets up in there with you and he races hard. That makes most of us older drivers, that if you're racing with, it makes you a little nervous because he has that lack of experience. Certainly not lack of ability, but lack of experience.
I just don't like to lose. It doesn't matter what I'm doing, I like to win, and until I get to the top, I'm just going to keep on trying. I don't ever give up. And I think the biggest thing that's really helped me along is being with really good people along the way. I've been with especially my mom and my stepfather. I mean, they've taught me a lot of things in life that you just can't get from anybody. And that's helped me tremendously, helped me make sure that I've been in good cars and good equipment and been with great people. But I think the biggest thing of all, I mean, it doesn't matter whether I'm playing a video game at the arcade or what it is. I do it to win. It doesn't matter if it's for money or no money. I do it just because I love it and because I want to win.
And that will to win that Jeff Gordon has, I think that's necessary to be a champion, but I think maybe Jeff Gordon has more than that. I think he has what it takes to be a legend in our sport. Now, we have a very different sort of interview. Now, as a race fan, you've probably heard the story about how Felix Sabates arrived in this country from Cuba with $5 and a box of cigars. And you know that today, along with owning the race teams of Kyle Petty and Kenny Wallace, Felix oversees a multi-million-dollar empire that includes selling unit and electronics, compact computers, and the successful business of selling and enjoying luxury yachts. He is the American dream personified. We were lucky enough to talk to Felix not just about racing, but about his philosophies, the principles that have guided him throughout his life. It's fascinating stuff. Here's the world according to Felix.
Well, sometimes adversity, when you're young, teaches you character. And I think because the background that I came from a fairly well-to-do family in Cuba to begin with, that lost everything to Castro. I had to start all over again. I've seen both sides. And it teaches a lot of humility, and it teaches you how to say thank you to people. And I was pretty lucky because a lot of people in this country have helped me. And this is the greatest country in the world. I love it. There's a lot of lessons behind it, and I talk to my children all the time about it, but I think the most important thing is never to quit. If you got confidence in yourself and you think you can accomplish something, try, and never quit trying, because someday you're going to succeed. I've been involved in a lot of things that were failures from the beginning, I didn't give up on it. I could have given up many times, but the word quit doesn't exist in my vocabulary, and I learned that from listening to my dad. You know, my father, if I have long hair, he gets mad at me. He pulls my hair. You know, I'm not allowed to chew gum in front of him. He's very strict, but he's always been a friend. And when I have had problems in business, which, believe me, people say that I never had problems in business. I have had many problems. The first person I would always call was my father, and he always tell me, do what's right. He would never tell me what to do. He said, do what's right. Whatever you think is right, you do it. Because if you're doing what you feel in your heart, that's the right thing to do, then it must be the right thing to do. I don't expect anybody to please me. I expect people to do the job. And that goes back to what my father used to say, do what's right. You know, a leader has to afford his subordinate the chance to succeed. A leader cannot tell people what to do and how to do the job. I have always lived with that philosophy. I don't tell people what to do the job in any of my business. I give them an opportunity, and if I see they're going the wrong way, I try to stop them. When you're involved with Winston Cup racing, which is the biggest form of racing in the world, forget Formula One. They're going to go on the tour in a few years. They can't keep going the way they're going. You know, IndyCar racing is fun, but they run a limited schedule, and they don't have the competition that we have in the Winston Cup variety. See, a competitive person, you know, to me, if I go out there and our car finishes in the top 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, I'm just as happy as we won the race. Because when you finish in the top 5, you have beaten 35 other great drivers. We don't have flunky drivers in Winston Cup. You know, we don't have weekend warriors in Winston Cup. We got guys that pour their whole life and soul into it. So when you beat anybody, I don't care if it's Dale Earnhardt that you beat, or if you beat a rookie, you beat somebody. So no matter what, unless you finish dead last, then you didn't beat anybody. But I've never lived the racetrack mad because we finished 20th or 25th. You know, I live disappointed. And what brings me back next week, I want to finish 2 spots higher up. I have no rules when it comes to business. I shoot from the hip. And sometimes it's the right move, sometimes I don't sit. One thing I have never done in my life is lose 1 hour of sleep. When I get to bed, I close my eyes. I don't care how bad the crisis is. It's still going to be there when I wake up. There's no reason for me to stay up awake thinking about it. So I really don't, you know, I have never stayed up at night worrying about anything. And believe me, I've had some major, major crises in my life with the business. I'm not very smart. It comes from the gut. I don't think about things too much. I do it, and after I do it, then I leave the consequences. Some have been good, and some have been horrible. See, you talk about Felix Sabates, the successful businessman. And there's another side of me, is the Felix Sabates, the failure in a lot of business. Because for every success story that I can give you about any of my businesses, I can give you 2 failures. Luckily, the successes have been larger than the failures, but I've had many, 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 many failures. You learn more from failure. Now, I don't think you can learn a lot from success, because if success comes to you and it's fairly easy, then you have the attitude that you can do anything, and anything you do is going to be successful. Failure teaches humility. And the one thing that I tell my children is remember that every day is the beginning of the rest of your life. What you learned yesterday is what you should apply to tomorrow's experiences. Don't think that what you learned yesterday is there because it's just there and it's behind you. What you learn, apply to tomorrow, and if you do that, you're going to succeed. There's 3 things that I learned and I learned this when I was a young man. One of them is, even if you're sitting on the right track, you will get run over if you just sit there. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2, when you're green, you're growing. When you're ripe, you're dead. And rule number 3 is, rolling a stone gathers no moss. And I think about those 3 things, and if you think about it for a long time, each one of them has a special, separate meaning, but at the end, they all mean the same. Do what's right. The most important thing is you got to keep being innovative every year. You got to be able to, that's when you Rolling Stone gathers no moss. You got to make your car roll faster, run faster every day, so the moss doesn't stick on the tires and you end up in the back. Even if you sit in the right track, you get run over by others if you just sit there. You see, if you go in the right direction, but you're afraid to make changes, you're going to get run over. And when you green, you take a green banana, and it gets ripe, it gets ripe. You don't eat it, it finally turns black and you have to throw it away. So when you're green, you're growing. When you're ripe, you're dead. So the object of life, if you try to keep in the green, in the little green band of life, because you learn something every day of your life. You know, I learn something every day. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but I try to learn something every day. I have a very strong faith and belief in God, and I think that sometimes He takes care of the innocent and the dumb, and I figure He's taking care of me. What is the Felix about his legacy? And I think I would want in my tombstone to say he did it what he thought it was right. And I think that's what my legacy wants to be.
Hope you enjoyed that. Now coming up next, our Dr. Jerry Punch got to spend some personal time with one of the most consistent performers in the sport, Ricky Rudd.
Let me just hit a couple highlights. The first win, 83, was at Riverside, California, a road course. 84, probably one of the most horrendous somersaults and tumbles that I've ever seen at Daytona, and there have been quite a few at Daytona in recent years, but Bud Moore's Ford, it looked like someone had just punted that car in the air. It was spiraling in the air and somersaulting. As long ago as that was, that's something probably is still etched somewhere in your mind.
Well, I remember it. You know, I know that it used to make all the highlight films, but I'm a little disappointed now. They took Richard Petty has got a better wreck than I had now. He's making all the highlight films, but not the way you like to be remembered as far as that particular season. But 84 was a big opportunity for me to be able to drive for Bud Moore Engineering out of Spartanburg. And Bud's always had a history of very good cars, especially on the big tracks. The Busch Clash that year, which is the preliminary to the Daytona 500, was the season starts there, and we were running third and had a driver that tapped me in the back bumper coming off the fourth corner. And at that time, that's about the time all these reverse flips were taking place back before the speeds were reduced. It was a 200-mile-an-hour ride, and end over end, every which way you could think about flipping, it happened. And it really shook me up. It really just mainly did a lot of bruise, a lot of damage, and torn cartilage and so on. But coming back from that, it was all kind of the agony of defeat and the thrill of victory the following week, because we came back and was able to win at Richmond, Virginia. And I remember that experience well, because I couldn't see after the wreck. It swelled my eyes shut, and the only way I could see was to use duct tape to hold my eyes open for the next couple of weeks. So coming back to win at Richmond was, like I say, that was a thrill of victory after coming back from the agony of defeat just the week before.
One of the first people to come to you, to see you in the garage area, usually is Linda. If there's been an accident that you've been swept up in, or there's been a problem, she's an active member of that race day operation.
Well, she really is. She's up there visible, I guess, at every race, and she enjoys what she does on race day is helps the guys to calculate their fuel mileage, keeps track of the race, almost like a kind of a clerk would do, or a court stenographer, basically. She's taking notes throughout the race. Keeps lap times not only on myself, or say if I'm running wherever, 5th, 6th, or maybe even 2nd or 3rd, she's not only clocking my car per lap, she's also clocking a leader's car. And what she does is uses these notes, and a lot of time they'll go back, the crew will look at these notes and look at whether or not it was beneficial to schedule a pit stop early or late, because they'll look at the fall off. If he's put on 4 tires early, maybe you can take advantage of that for an extra 15 laps. So basically they use her notes to use during the race to help them make their race day decisions. And I think it keeps her pretty busy, keeps her mind occupied sometimes on some of these intense races.
We talked about the pride that you have in your efforts at a racetrack, but we spent time with the individuals in the Tide team. We went from Gary Dehart to the people fabricating, to painting, to building the race cars, the engine room, and it's amazing to me that these guys spend hours building, 2 and 3 hours building a small little piece of molding that goes on the front of the car for a road course, knowing that probably someone may bend that during the day, but I mean, that has to make you feel good, but at the same time, it must put a little bit of pressure on you knowing all these guys are working hundreds of hours to get that car ready.
Well, I think first of all, the dedication that it takes, the team effort, and I stress team effort that it takes to put together a winning effort. I don't know, I think you try to bring that in perspective, but I don't know if the public is really aware of the time and dedication these guys do. Like you just explained, they might spend hours upon hours making a part that I'm liable to go out and bend it up in the first lap of a race. And from my side of it, I can't really think about that. I have to take that car and use it the way I think it needs to be used to try to get that race won. And if that means bending that part up, I'm in a position where I don't think twice about it. But you would think that a guy that spent all that time making that special part, first thing I do is bend it up on lap one. They're going to have the attitude, well, heck with it. I'm not going to spend that time on that part anymore. Look what he did to it. But these guys don't do that. They don't give up. They know that if we can run that whole race and say those special brake ducts that they had made to help keep the brakes cool, like on a road course, if I can run and knock that and maybe even run half the race before maybe they get knocked off, then that's the chance that they'll take building them, because they know that you need that little extra effort to try to win with. But I think that's the key, again, is teamwork. The driver, my role is only a small part of a whole team structure. And if that driver's doing his part, you definitely have to have the driver doing his part to be able to win races, win championships. But say the driver's not doing the job and the rest of the team is doing the job, well, it's not going to be successful. So, keeping that harmony, not only the driver, but the guys that's building the engines in the shop, the guy that sets that chassis up, the guy that builds the rear end gears and the transmissions. If you get all these guys, Dan Ford, Danny Marshburn, and there's a whole host of names there that are the reason for Hendrick's success. But say the reason we're not winning 30 races a year, there's got to be a reason somewhere. And a lot of time we look hard at trying to fill those voids, and I don't have to look very hard. I've got guys like Gary Dehart that look over that whole operation, and they look at it with a microscope, and they're constantly trying to figure out where we're getting beat, or why we are not maybe as successful as we like to be. And each week there are minor changes made, not only in our team, but just about every Winston Cup team. But the confidence that I have to have in these guys, that makes my job easier, really.
You were one of the first, I think Mark Martin may have been the first, but you were one of the first drivers to really get serious with the conditioning program.
Well, the way I got involved in that really was kind of, everyone is doing everything they can. The crew's working as hard as they can to get you that little fraction of a second, maybe that 1/10 of a second a lap. It doesn't sound like much, but when we race today, the cars are so evenly paced that, 1/10 of a second per lap is probably the difference in running first and, say, 10th nowadays. I sort of blindly got into the working out program. I injured my leg. I tore the ligaments in my left knee back around 1989, and part of the therapy then was to ride a stationary bicycle to try to build the leg back up. The alternative was to have an operation and surgery, and I couldn't be out, so I chose to use the bicycle as the workout routine. And through that, was able to start seeing the benefits during the race that, hey, I feel a little fresher at the end of these races. I got a little more kick than I had before at the end of a 500-mile race. And then from that, it went into weightlifting. I got on a weightlifting program to build the upper body, my neck, and my shoulders. And it's just amazing now. I look back, and it's no longer an option anymore to say, hey, I don't think I want to work out today. You realize it real quick on a Sunday afternoon that after a long, grueling race, sure, I get tired and I get hot. But I recover so quick. It used to take me probably a Monday afternoon before I came around. Now Monday morning, a lot of times I'm at the gym or out running 2 or 3 miles on a Monday morning after a big physical race. So you don't have to tell me about the benefits. I don't even have to. It doesn't take much convincing, even though some days maybe you had a real rough day. That's what, again, I rely on Linda. She's kind of boot me in the backside to get out of the house, go run, or go to the gym.
So we stir in working out along with personal appearances and fan mail and testing and 4 days at the racetrack. And, what do you do in your spare time? I mean, I know you had a day off a couple of years ago. What do you do to relax?
Well, you pretty much have to find, part of the thing we do, we enjoy the lake. We come back to Lake Norman most of the time, and after a race, and the benefit of the airplanes that we no longer have the option of having, we have to have some type of air travel to get to and from the races, the schedule we've got. But when we get a chance, I love the lake. I just love to unwind, hop on a boat, go boat riding, or just cruise around, sit on the sea-doos or the jet skis and just really can just about stay out here in your backyard. You've got your own vacation in your backyard. The only trouble with that is finding the time to enjoy it as much as you would like to. I have to be real careful because I get back home sometimes or get back to the lake and I start to enjoy it too much, and all of a sudden that next appearance or that next scheduled event we have, you start thinking, hey, it's pretty nice. I wish we could put that off a day. But the other side of it, it really does everything is such a hectic pace that we live, and it's kind of nice to be out in the middle of nowhere, which I feel like we are. We're just about out in the middle of nowhere, kind of out in a little wilderness here, and to be able to enjoy the water, and that's the big thing.
Well, Ricky, enough of this chatting about the boats. It's such a beautiful day here at your place on Lake Norman. Let's why don't we just take a trip on one of that? Now, maybe not the 100-mile-per-hour dude. Let's get one of the maybe 50 at most. Okay, we'll get on one of the other Rudd Marina selections here, and we'll go out on the lake.
We'll just get on the cruise boat and go get us Pepsi-Cola and just cruise around.
Hey, that's great. That's great. Let's do that.
All right.
Ricky has left Hendrick Motorsports and has decided to try to take his career to a new level by owning his own team. Along with his wife, Linda, they make a determined team, and success in years to come is almost assured. Next year's a look at some unheralded heroes of NASCAR racing, the spotters. High above the racetrack, they are the driver's eyes throughout a race. It's a grueling, pressure-filled job, and it takes a special breed of man to handle it. Now, one note before we get started. Before his tragic death, we interviewed Davey Allison about his spotter and felt the best way to pay tribute to Davey was to include it. Here's a look at the driver's eyes in the sky.
The job of the spotter is to try to take care of the driver in the car out on the racetrack. My job is when Brett hears my voice, he knows something is wrong. I don't do a lot of talking. I try to stay ahead of the car. I don't really watch our car. Just like at Talladega, where we are now, I'll stay almost a straightaway ahead of him. When he's coming off of 2, I'll be down turn 3, watching turn 3. He takes care of things directly in front of him, and I try to stay, according to what track we're at, how far ahead of him I stay. Short track, I stay right directly in front of him, maybe 100 yards in front of him. Super speedway, half a mile in front of him, because with the speeds, he's got to have time to slow down. If he's coming off of 2 and he knows something wrong in 3, he has time to back off and collect his thoughts, especially at Talladega and Daytona. At the speeds they're running, the restarts and the starts just terrify me because they're racing side by side for so long before they get strung out.
You're responsible for the driver getting in the groove, and you got to get him in there, and if you don't, he can crash or crash a lot of cars. You know, you got to know when the cautions are coming out and where the caution happens, where the cars are at, and letting the driver know, you know, where the accidents are on the track and stuff. It's a big responsibility because, you know, he can't see all the way around the track. So if he's going 190 something miles an hour down the backstretch into a crash, he's got to know. You know, it's kind of a big deal. You got a job to do, and you do it. You know, the driver's got his pressure. He's got to perform. The pit crew's got to perform. The spotter's got to perform. Everybody's got to do it, and it's got to be a full circle.
Try to stay at least a half a mile on a track this size, at least a half a mile in front, and give him plenty of time to react, to slow down at anything that happens. If it's any closer than that, it's hard for him to get slowed down. Just help him when he's racing somebody, stay clear. And for instance, toward the end of the race, on the last lap, if something happens on the last lap, I try to direct him because they'll race back to the flag, but I try to direct him with a clear path. And just work with other drivers, especially when they're drafting like they do here. Drivers work with each other, and the only communication they got is through us spotters. When he's racing somebody, just as he clears them, the only thing I say is clear. That's when he passes to the inside. If he's passed to the outside, he can see himself if he's clear. So I don't say anything to distract him, because every time he hears the radio key, he anticipates something's happening. Unless he is racing somebody, then he knows that he's waiting to hear that clear. Tell him if it's far enough ahead of him where he can't see it, like if he's on the front stretch and something happens in turn 2, I'll say, turn 2, go high, you know, if the car's uncleared higher, And then I'll tell him, caution, flag is out, and that way he knows to race back. And I'll usually tell him if it happens behind him, I'll wait till he's on a straightaway if it's behind him, and tell him, it's behind you, Davey, turn 1, clear back to the flag, so he knows it's safe to race all the way back to the flag.
Man, I'll tell you what, the spotters, our spotter has saved us on numerous occasions from accidents that were happening or things, there was debris on the racetrack or another car up alongside me when I didn't know it was there, and giving us feedback all through the race. He's a vital part of our race team.
Well, the spotter is probably as important as any tire changer on the car, because he can, get you to moves that's going to save the car, going to make you run better. You're driving totally by his racing. I'm not saying driving. You're racing another car totally to his directions. If a car's up on the outside quarter, if you got by a car, he'll say clear. You can pull back over, And he has to continuously watch you all day long, but he can help you more and pull you up more in positions on the track than your pit crew can under a good pit stop. So whenever I go to run an IROC car, they don't have radios or spotters, and it's just a terrible feeling out there, not knowing when you can move over or where somebody's at or what you can do, and also in accidents when a car's spinning you out of smoke, he starts guiding me early. You can't see through the smoke, I'm going where I should be going to a certain point. Then once that windshield goes completely blank, and then he'll say stay low or stay high. So it works. It saved us a lot of cars and a lot of positions on the racetrack.
If he says there's somebody on your hip, you know that you've already seen the guy in the mirror move. You know where he's at. It just gives you an actual vision, an actual impression of what's happening without having to really see it. And that's what his job is, to visualize it for you and then make you understand what's there, and just so you know you're enlightened by it. And that's the best thing for it. He'll just talk about where guys are at, position, what's happening up front, if somebody's getting crazy or not, and that's just all you need. The key is the guys that they talk very clearly and they talk fairly slow. If they get very excited, they get pretty crazy, you can't understand them. You can say, hey, wait a minute, calm down, slow it down a little bit, I can't hear you. And that's just like crew chiefs the same way. So they have to keep a cool head and just and try to articulate best they can.
He can see the big picture. I can only see the small picture. There's no doubt that if an NFL quarterback could have a spotter up in the booth with a ear set in his ear and say the receiver's open long, he'd throw the ball long. And basically that's what we're up against. We can use that man where in other sports they can't.
Well, I've done some racing myself, driving at Hickory Speedway in Tri-County, and Larry and them wanted me to give it a try back in '91, and I give it a try, and they've kept me there. It seemed like when I first started, it took a little bit for Davey to build his trust up, for him to learn, anticipating when he's clear, somebody let him know, and his, because he's in a lot of danger out there, so he has to build up trust in me, and it took us a while, but now he trusts me a lot. Oh, Pocono, it hurt me. I was scared to death that I could see more than what the crew were seeing, and I just know, I could see it was real bad. I could only see parts of it. The time where it got up on the nose, I could see it come over, and they wasn't nothing but a left-hand door left on the 10. And when it came to a stop, I said, Larry, it's bad, it's Davey.
Oh! Where Davey flipped, it's demolished. Darrell turned him. Larry, it was bad.
You got to trust them. But Terry Thornburg, who spots for us, is a race car driver also. He races on the weekends when we're off, when he doesn't come to the racetrack, and he knows what I want to hear. So it's easy for me to trust somebody like him.
I care about the car, that's my car out there. I got to take care of it. That's one thing. I work a lot of hours on the motor, and I don't want to get it wadded up in the wall. And, you got to finish. I want to just do a good job, Yeah, you and the driver are the only ones that know what's going on. You have to be in constant communication with them. And you have to be clicking with the driver. Me and Derek seem to click pretty good.
It takes a little time to get that trust to know, for him to know exactly how much space you need to get in there and what he's seeing, because things are happening awful fast. So, yeah, you got to be awfully confident in him.
You have to trust him because there's a lot of blind spots on your race cars. You know, probably 95% of your wrecks on short tracks happen because people turn down on people not knowing they're there and they get hit in the left rear and spun out. You got to believe him. And if he misjudges, there's going to be one big crash.
It's a lot of responsibility. Take a lot of pride in it, you know. I really enjoy it. I feel like, you know, I'm a real important part of the team doing this. It really can make a big difference sometimes.
The last few years of my driving career, my son Kevin was my spotter. And it's not often that a son gets to talk back to his father and tell his father what to do, but I listened very closely to what Kevin had to say because he was so good at directing me around the traffic. Thanks, Kevin, very much for a job well done. Next, every week you see what happens when pit crews go over the wall in search of that under 18-second pit stop. But how is the pit area set up? How is the equipment laid out to be part of the pit stop ballet? Veteran Crew Chief Jeff Hammond has a special report.
Nowadays, there's been more emphasis put on the pit crews than ever before. They've been very instrumental in winning races, setting new records as far as fast times in and out of the pits. But what a lot of people have always asked is, what happens? How do you get all this stuff set up to where it's ready to go on race day? You know, what kind of like supports these pit crews? You know, what does it take to make these 16, 17, 18-second pit stops we keep hearing about on TV and reading about in the newspaper? Well, first off, we've got to start. We're going to give you a little bit of a tour of what it takes to get a pit set up. You know, it's not just the guys. It has a lot to do with the material and the tools that are necessary to be able to make these stops. First and foremost, you've got to have one of these humongous war wagons, they call it. This thing here is kind of like a parts trailer on wheels that the guys pull out here every Sunday morning, very bright and early, but a lot of times before race fans even get here, and they start setting up these pits. A lot of the teams, just like my team, we have two guys, Danny Shull and Ron McLeod, that's what they specialize in, is setting up pits. They make sure everything's in the right place so that we don't have a problem coming out here after we get the car on the line and being able to jump over the wall and do our jobs during the race. We know everything's in the proper place, and if we happen to have a problem during the race, we know that all the necessary parts are going to be here. Just like Monty Hall used to say on Let's Make a Deal, what's behind door number one? A lot of the teams, first and foremost, you got to have a computer system. Not only do we keep up with the scoring in NASCAR so we know where we are on the racetrack, we also have a race strategy deal, which allows us to kind of calculate our fuel, keep an idea on what our lap times are. It makes it a lot easier for us to be able to plan our race strategies as we go along. Also, this war wagon, we carry a spare radiator in case of a crash. There's a lot of pieces in this thing that we will have just in case we have a problem during the race. You'll get a chance to see them a little up close and personal. But at the same time, you've got to be able to have places to carry all your pit equipment, such as the guns, the air hoses, the jacks. This is where it all happens at right here. And not only is it that, this right here is the command central for me. I get up on top, I can clock the car, I can oversee what's going up and down the pit road, even see what's going to transpire sometimes on the racetrack. Different racetracks, it's a very good vantage point for the crew chief and different team members to be able to look around and see what's happening on the racetrack and tell your driver, you know, look out for trouble, turn one, or so-and-so is running good, watch out for him. But here in the front of the pit wagon, you'll see the nitrogen bottles. This here is how we get the tires on and off so fast. This unit carries 3 nitrogen bottles with 2,500 pounds of air in each bottle. Double hoses, each have a primary wrench and you have a backup wrench in case one of them fails during a pit stop. We also have, just in case the dreaded crash, we have necessary tools such as a air chisel to be able to cut away fenders, to get them off the tires so we can continue to race. As you look, you'll also see we have A-frames. All these boxes are carried within the war wagon, and they have upper and lower control arms, spindles. We have some electrical supplies with spare batteries just in case we have a problem with a distributor. We can very quickly come in and make a change so that we can also continue to run. All this stuff is carried and packed very neatly inside this war wagon so that whenever we come out here on race day, it can be set up real quick, and at the same time, after the race is over with and everybody's tired, everything can be packed away, stored very neatly, and carried for the next race. Also, we have a torch system. Richard Bosick and his fuel dump cans sit right here, all his stuff he needs as far as gas in the car is concerned. The overflow can,
The one thing we don't have here, but a lot of the teams do carry, is a spare windshield. As you can see behind us, the Country Time car, they use a glass windshield, and they still have theirs standing over behind the pit in case they happen to break a windshield. A lot of the teams this year have opted to go to the MR5000 Lexan windshields, and therefore by doing this, they've not broken nowhere near as many and necessary to carry a spare one as much as always. Back in the very back of our war wagon, especially for here, we're at Talladega at this point in time, we have a spare side glass that's carried for a lot of the racetracks. And you need this at Atlanta, Daytona, Talladega, Charlotte, places like that. We run side glasses. It's mandatory to have a spare one in the pits just in case you happen to have a wreck and lose it. In wrapping everything up, the best way I can kind of give you people at home how I feel about the way things are done here in this pit is Danny and Ron have got everything laid out in a proper place. It's kind of like I'm the conductor, and this is the orchestra. They've got everything in tune in the right place at the right time. In case anything goes wrong on Sunday, we're ready for it. Anything from missing the motor to beating the fender off a tire. We've got everything laid out in a proper place so that if the time does arrive, we are ready. Not only just for the 18-second pit stops, but for the unexpected. So on Sunday, pay attention to see what's happening, not only over the wall where the car is, but look behind the wall and see what's going on inside that area. See the guys that are backing up the guys that go over the wall, what they're doing, washing windshields, rolling tires, just paying attention to everything that's going on. There is just as much happening on the inside of this wall as there is on the outside. So in signing off, just pay attention on Sunday. You'll be surprised what goes on.
Know what, folks? That about wraps up this edition of NASCAR Video Magazine. I hope you've enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you in your living room from my living room. Any comments or questions, please write me in care of the address you see on the screen. Hey, I'm counting on hearing from you. Yeah, you. Drop me a line. Thanks for joining us, and see you on the next edition.